Hi, my name is Brett Shanahan and welcome to the Augmented 7th. In this video I would like to just not only introduce myself and my playing style, but also talk to you about what the motivation for the teaching is and the ethos that we have here at the Augmented 7th and what it is that we try to create, the way that we try to get our message across to students. So basically this video is really just like a preamble as to what will follow. You know, I'll talk about why I think of the guitar the way I think about it and what that means for learning and why I think that it should be learnt that way. Okay, so what the hell am I talking about? Well, obviously the guitar can be looked at in many different ways, but two of the more traditional ways are shapes and notes. Okay, so let us talk a little bit firstly about shapes. Well, to start with, let us consider a C major chord. Now this is a shape that many students would learn, and those who've already started the guitar to some extent would be familiar with. Okay, and while I don't want to denigrate against using shapes altogether, because they can be useful in their own right, especially as a place to use as a point of reference, they are very restrictive. Why is that? Well, what happens is I learn this chord shape, I learn another chord shape, then I learn other chord shapes. All of a sudden, if I'm writing a chord progression, the progression that I write has to be restricted to the chord shapes that I know. Now, what this means is that I have to learn endless chord shapes, and then I have to somehow figure out how to put them into a progression to make something that's a musical statement which sounds good and makes sense. The alternative view, and one that doesn't have quite so many instant rewards as shape playing, is note learning. For example, with the C major chord that I just played before, I'll play it again. While many of you may recognise this, few may recognise that it's actually C, E, G, C, E. In other words, a C major chord is simply any combinations of the notes C, E and G. So we'll talk a little bit about why it's those notes that make up a C major chord and what that means in the general theory of chord construction. Okay, so let's elaborate a little bit further on shapes. We've established so far that any combination of C, E and G, those three notes, gives us a C major chord. Alright, so let us see. If we just take three notes at a time, one of each note, one of C, one of E, one of G, then we can get three different shapes on the top three strings. And then the first shape that I played an octave higher. Of course the others can be played an octave higher as well. Then on the second three strings, and so on. Okay, so there's four different sets of three adjacent strings, three different arrangements of the notes C, E and G, and that's 15 shapes. Well, sorry, 12 shapes. Where's my maths? Anyway, if we look at bar chord shapes, and I'll introduce those throughout as well, then we've got the C shape, the well-known A shape, the lesser-known G shape, the well-known E shape, and the D shape. And that's in one half of the guitar neck. Okay, so basically what I've just come up with is 17 different chord shapes. And like I say, 12 of those are actually from taking the top three strings, the second three strings, the third three strings, or the bottom three strings, and the others are taken from full chord shapes across 5 or 6 strings where the notes are repeated. Okay, so if I'm playing in a certain part of the neck, all of a sudden I have to think about what shapes I know. Okay, so I might be soloing in the key of C down here near the middle of the neck somewhere. And I finish on a C, and I might want to drop a C major chord in. I'm restricted to what shapes I know. Now I do know a couple, but any combination of the notes C, E and G will work. Okay, so I can put the G here in the 5th string, the C in the 4th at the 10th fret, and the E at the 9th fret of the next string, or I can play the C at the 10th, the G at the 12th, the E at the 12th of the top string, and have a completely different voicing. Okay, so this might seem a little bit consuming and also confusing. Well, basically what I'm saying is that any combination of C, E and G works. So what is the obvious step? Well, that is learn every note on the neck of the guitar, and it's really not that hard. It doesn't take too much effort, and it's a hell of a lot quicker than learning a lot of chord shapes. Okay, so with that sort of knowledge, why would I bother with that? Well, obviously I don't want to learn 17 chord shapes for every key, for every type, and so on and so forth. Though some shapes may be useful, I actually want a more pronounced knowledge of the notes of the guitar so that I can create my own chord shapes and progressions on the spot. Okay, so now that I've established what my goal is, let's just say that I'm playing the said C major chord that I've come up with, and I decide to make it a major 7th chord. Well, theory tells me that C major 7th is a B, so I'm looking to drop that B in, and I'll just put it there at the 12th fret. Then I might decide that I want to play a C dominant 7th chord. Well, I know that C's dominant 7th is B flat, so all of a sudden I flatten that B, I get a different chord. Then I can flatten the 5th, and I'm playing the C 7 flattened 5th, and then if I flatten the 3rd, I'm playing a C minor 7 flattened 5th. All of a sudden I've come up with a whole chord progression that's stepped away from the original key, and it's my understanding of the notes and what notes make up different chord types that has allowed me to create a progression which is somewhat unique. Okay, so let's go back to just playing in some region of the neck, and let's say that I pick this G here, and this C here, and then this E here. Okay, and let's say that again I'm playing a C major 7th, so I put a B in. Okay, I've just constructed another C major 7th chord, and I haven't relied on a shape, I've just relied on knowing the notes of the chord. But not only that, I can move to other chords. For example, A minor 7 is made up of the notes A, C, E and G. Alright, now we know that the C major 7 is C, E, G and B. The difference between the two structures is the B becomes an A. Okay, so I'm playing this C major, and I add the 7th, and I'm playing a C major 7 chord. I drop that back to A, and I'm playing an A minor 7 chord. So all of a sudden it's my knowledge of the chords, again, the knowledge of the notes that make them up, the knowledge of where those notes are on the neck, that stops me from learning a whole bunch of shapes, just which notes to change, and all of a sudden I'm writing a chord progression. And the same thing extends to scales, albeit a little bit more structurally technical. But having said that, while we will teach some shapes so that you get some sort of basic mechanics of the fingerboard going, we will encourage the students, to learn the notes of the neck of the guitar and to play accordingly and to become creative, and you'll learn through the videos and the writings that we present within this website the tools necessary to do that. We hope that you'll stick with us. We hope that you'll enjoy the teachings. We look forward to any critiques or comments that you have. If you have any questions, please just contact us. Otherwise, I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.